Hello and welcome. Today we're in the new tier 8 Dutch large cruiser, the Haarlem. The Haarlem. The ship was given to me by Wargaming for preview. So the first thing people will probably think about when it comes to the Dutch cruisers is the airstrike ability. You can see it under the number 4 button. And effectively, when I use this ability, I have to target somewhere on the ocean, or that's within 12 kilometers of my ship. Then this calls in some planes, not from my ship, elsewhere, that will fly over the area and drop some bombs with parachutes attached. They take around 15 seconds to do a strike. They're pretty difficult to use because of that. Imagine if you're trying to shoot someone with your guns and it takes 15 seconds for your shells to arrive. They can do quite many actions before your shells arrive, right? And that's kind of the case here as well. But I don't exactly know where you put the indicator. So here, we're gonna do a strike. I locked my guns, apparently that locks the airstrike too. But I want to drop on that Nelson because she's getting within 12 kilometers. So I estimate maybe over there, and I'll put the second strike, because you have 2 charges, slightly in front of it in case the Nelson goes further ahead. And that's basically it, and you can see on the timer. The timer is actually the amount of time until the bombs hit the water. And because the Nelson had either slowed down or because I led too much, well, nothing happened with that strike. It did 0 damage. And now I have an 80-second cooldown, I believe. Maybe it's 100 seconds, I'm not 100% certain. But that's for one charge. They don't reload at the same time or cool down. So I would have to wait 160 or 200 seconds to get both of them. As I said, they're pretty difficult to land properly. Quite often enemies can... Like, I had a situation where I tried to airstrike, I think a Stalingrad that was reversing. And I basically predicted the strike onto the ship. In that time she managed to stop reversing, started accelerating and still sailed out of the strike area. So yeah, they're not the easiest thing to land. And even when they do land, they tend to not do all that much damage. I think the highest I've done with the Haarlem is something like 7,800 or something like that. The highest I've had damage in a game from airstrikes is, I think, 45k. That was a pretty weird game. I basically got multiple perfect drops off. I'd say probably the biggest advantage is actually the HE. So some other aspects on the bombs. They have 34mm of penetration, they're HE bombs. And here we have another chance to use the strike. I'm gonna try to lead slightly more on the Kansas. By the way, the planes can actually be shot down. And while it might drop 72 bombs, I believe, it's 12 planes. And each plane drops 6 each, I believe. Well, it seems I missed. Yeah, no hits again. The funny thing is that this is much more like carpet bombing than the British CVs do. Because the area that the bombs hit on is much larger and there are way more bombs falling down. At least I think there are way more. I'm not actually entirely certain. But anyway, more of the ship itself. The Haarlem is... Okay, so actually I guess let's talk about the guns of the Haarlem. Imagine that you have Admiral Hipper guns. Okay? But now imagine that instead of an 11-second reload, you have a 15-second reload. Then imagine that instead of having cruiser dispersion, you actually have battle cruiser dispersion, which is worse than cruiser dispersion. And then you also have less range than the Admiral Hipper by about 2 kilometers. And that's the guns of the Haarlem. And when I say that they're like Admiral Hipper guns, I mean that they're exactly like it, with AP, in regards to AP at least. With HE, well, they don't get the improved penetration that the German ones do. Which doesn't really matter. I mean, they're 203 guns. They're gonna be fine in tier 8. But because of this, your HE DPM is abysmal. It's 100k. Your AP DPM is also pretty lackluster, and keep in mind, these are Admiral Hipper AP shells. Not exactly the most penetrative of them all, right? You'd be better off with Baltimore AP in this sense. Therefore, the guns on this ship are extremely weak for the type of ship it is. but it's kind of understandable. When I first started playing the ship, I had an extremely poor impression of her. And I think a lot of people are going to have an extremely bad first impression of her as well, because of the same reason. The guns just, they don't feel great. The dispersion is bad, the damage output is bad, but it kind of makes sense from a balanced perspective. Not because of the airstrikes, forget about the airstrikes. It's because, well, first of all, the ship gets hydro and defensive fire at the same time. It gets amazing anti-air, well, self-defense amazing anti-air at least. But most of all, it has amazing armor. It has an icebreaker at the front, or I don't know what it's actually called. Basically, where you're not gonna get citadeled from the front. On top of that, it has fairly thick side armor. I believe it's like 200mm main belt. Then there's like a 30mm plate in front of it. Then there's like a little turtleback thing as well. It's, for a cruiser, the armor is crazy good. And it's a very good layout too, which means that you're extremely unlikely to be citadeled. Therefore, you're very tanky, except when you're dealing with fires. Remember how I said that this is a large cruiser? That's because it eats the super cruiser fires, so to say. So HE spam is gonna be a bit of a problem on the ship, but AP, she felt really tanky against it. And she's also really stealthy and maneuverable. I mean, this ship has like 9.8 kilometer concealment. 9.8 in a ship that's really tanky. Of course, she'll have to have some downsides, like the guns, right? Honestly, I would actually like if this ship, instead of airstrikes, had torpedoes though. While the airstrikes are cool and all, they don't really help you in certain close quarter situations, and this ship really feels like a close quarter ship to me. Because of the extremely good tankiness, you really want to be in those situations where you just get next to a battleship or a cruiser and you just blow it out of the water. But because you don't have torps, it's a really risky endeavor. Now, the airstrikes do mean one thing though. You get to play differently. You see, those contested positions on the maps, where you have one team on one side and the other team on the other side of like the same island, like this island in front of me, right? With that Graafspee coming in. You see, as a Dutch cruiser, this is actually a really good spot because you can just airstrike over the island. Let's take an example of that. So there's a Summers over there. She's in the sea cap and she's, well, usually the destroyer goes behind the island in the sea cap and then just sits there to try to take the cap. But with the airstrike, you're capable of making the destroyer move a little bit, or at least deal some damage to them. But you have to kinda mess about with the airstrike a little bit. Not entirely certain how you're supposed to aim it. I used the minimap here, because obviously you couldn't see anything through the island. And the airstrikes are coming in. Two hits for 3,800 damage. That's 20% of the destroyer's life. It's not the most amazing thing, but it's something, and I'm sure if you get luckier, you can hit more of them. Anyway, we have an airstrike going in on the Graafspee here, and 10.6k with that strike. We could do a second follow-up too. I mean, imagine if I had put both of them exactly on the same spot that those landed. That would be half of the Spee's HP, although I have to say that I don't think I've seen a larger strike than that before this. I think, yeah, like I said, 7k was usually the highest. And it seems that she completely avoided the second strike anyway. Luckily though, we do have some AP for that. Man, Dutch is an interesting language. It really feels like somebody took English and German and just mixed them. Oh hey, an eagle. That's alright, we have HE for that. But it's gonna take a while because the HE DPM on the ship is fairly low. Oh, 1,800 damage, how amazing is that? And my destroyer is already dead, damn. We should be able to avoid the torps. Okay, 4k this time. One more salvo like that and she should be gone. Hopefully. Okay, never mind. Somebody else did it. I guess I should go after that Harakaze, right? Because Ryujo keeps running and eventually she won't be able to run away from the DD anymore. And apparently the Trenta thinks so as well. So I'm gonna go try to chase her, but not entirely certain this is the greatest idea because my ship is somewhat slow. I try to not fire all of my guns at once, especially since I'm gonna be sailing directly towards the Harakaze. Basically my plan is to fire one gun at a time, so that even if the Harakaze is doing evasive actions, she can't just avoid everything every time. But the dispersion is gonna be a problem here, and the HEDPM. 2 shell hits only deal 1400 damage. So we have to hit her with 10 more shells, and all of them have to actually deal damage. Oh boy. Oh, actually this one did more damage. What? Wow, okay. Well, we still need 7 of those. We're at 9 kilometers. Okay, 940. Good. Oh, 1400 this time as a follow-up. That was actually less damage per shell than usual. None of those hit from the first gun. And only 1 shell hit. So, remember how I said that the guns have abysmal damage per minute? And that their dispersion is bad? Well, this is exactly what I meant. Eventually, we're gonna kill that Harakaze. I'm just glad she hasn't actually tried to torp me. Okay, she's turning away. Oh, yes! Yes, 1 more shell and she's gone. Hydra is up, so we should be fine. Yes! We got her! Whew. That was a lot harder than it probably should have been. Anyway, time to turn around and go for the B cap because it's a 4 versus 4. The enemy has 2 battleships. We have 2 cruisers, a destroyer, and... well, there's the CVs too. Our destroyer is an Asashio, which is the perfect destroyer in this kind of situation, especially because she's being chased by a cruiser and attacked by the CV, which means that she's probably not going to be able to do anything for the rest of the game. And we're fighting a Bayan. I want to get close range, because I want the Bayan to focus on me so that the Trento can DPM her without as many worries, because again, my damage output is pretty abysmal, unless it's fires. Hopefully we can land that airstrike, although it doesn't look like it. I think I didn't lead enough, although maybe... no. Maybe it'll hit the stern of the ship. Come on. Okay, we can see where the Normandy is. Okay, at least it hit the stern. Oh, and it started a fire! Perfect! It's kind of hard to land the drops when a ship is turning though, because you don't know how far they're gonna turn. So it's better to wait until they straighten out again a little bit. Let's try again on the drop. Oh, I think we got this one. Oh, that's looking really good. Oh, yes. 7k. Nice. And it started another fire. This is extremely useful for me. At close range, I'm not too worried about the Bayan. She can get regular pens on me. However, she should be unable to citadel me, especially the closer we get. And as long as I show my bow to her, obviously. Now, the main thing is I need to worry about not being rammed here. Because the Bayan, if I were in the Bayan shoes, I would try to go for a ram. So I have to try to, even if I have to put my ship at risk, it's probably better to try to avoid her. Oh, she's turning out. Excellent. So this means that we've already avoided the ram. And she's gonna show me broadside here. So, AP it is. Let's use my heal, because I still have quite a few of those left. I don't think I can go through the main belt, so I figured I'd go for the upper belt. And we got her. Next up is the Amalfi. But I also want to get entered the B-cap, sadly though, because the corpse of the Bayan is in the way. I can't. Amalfi is gonna be in range soon, I think. Very soon. I don't think I was able to lead enough there. Maybe it'll work though. because right now we need everything we can get, because Trenta only has 5500 HP. And, well, it's a tier 6 CV. They aren't exactly excellent at dealing with tier 8 cruisers. Oh, Amalfi just ate some torps, I think a Trenta torp and the CV torp, or something like that. Of course it was a Citadel hit that finished her off. Anyway, I'm gonna be able to enter the B cap now. The only problem is, I don't know where the Normandy is. See, if I had a scout plane or a fighter plane, I'd launch them right now to be able to see over the island. Sadly, the airstrikes do not give you vision, so I can't use that to be able to see where the Normandy is. When the Ranger finished off the Asasha... Wait, what? Ranger used torpedoes to finish the Asasha off? Wow. Also, this is extremely bad. Normandy being this close? I don't know, it's sketchy. I'm not sure what to do. I guess I'll try to reverse here and load AP so I can get her. Oh no, she's already angled. No fire from the planes either. Damn. Okay, well, I guess we'll switch to HE. Oh no, she's actually going for the ram. This is extremely bad. I should have just probably kept going full speed and eaten the broadside salvo I would have taken. Because there's nothing I can do. She's gonna ram me and I have no choice here. If I start accelerating right now, I'm gonna get rammed immediately. Also, apparently airstrikes have a minimum range. Damn, that also sucks. Why does it have a minimum range? Anyway, I'm gonna keep reversing away and try to turn at the end there. Maybe it'll be a soft enough ram that it won't kill me immediately. Although that does seem unlikely, but maybe heal will get me through it. Although wait, I would have needed Damakon for that, damn. Wait, what? What? So it was a soft ram, but it was for the other guy, what the hell? This is BS. He still had 8000 HP left. What? That is truly BS. My 40k HP only did 15k damage. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Even if we had just traded, where the Normandy dies and I die, I would have gotten an extra kill, but, well, we still would have lost the game, right? Because we have nothing to get into B. That is really unfortunate. I really should have kept going full speed, and maybe I could have pulled off a dodge from the Normandy then, instead of being rammed. The Normandy just had way too much HP left. If she had been lower, I mean, we did like 20k damage to her before she got the ram off, but that wasn't enough. We needed to deal 45k damage. Oh well. I mean, it was still a great game on my end. In fact, it was the best game on my end I've had. I've played more than a dozen matches, maybe like 15 in the Haarlem, and this was by far the best. 153k damage. Sunk 6 ships. I sank literally half the enemy team. 1528 base XP. But I have to emphasize this again. The Haarlem suffers from the ability to deal damage. It's not something that you'll have a good first impression on, probably, because you're not gonna get these amazing damage result games that you might be used to in other ship types. Because I mean, even with this 153k damage, look, 15k from ramming, 28k from fires, the airstrikes did another 28k. I mean, look at that AP and HE damage. 291 HE shells fired 51k damage. Wait, we actually did 46k damage to the Normandy. I suppose, well, 15k of it is the ram, but still, that means we did 30,000 damage to her before the ram. Well, that is unfortunate, but let's check out the Haarlem in port. Looks actually pretty nice. I really like the look. This is the perma camo of the ship, which I don't have. And I don't think I will ever have, but it's a pretty nice look of the ship, as far as cruisers are concerned. So, I guess captain skills go first. These are the skills that I ended up using. I don't know if these are the best, these are just the ones I had. Grease the gears, priority target, superintendent obviously, concealment expert, adrenaline rush, and then top grade gunner. I also have outnumbered, but I don't know if this outnumbered skill is worthwhile. I mean, the dispersion advantage is actually pretty important on this ship, because the dispersion truly is not that great. But how often does this actually activate? Because your main battery range is fairly short, and there usually are some allies around you, so it's kind of difficult to actually activate this ability. By the way, this ability actually works if you're just in a 1 versus 1 against the enemy. If you didn't know, you yourself apparently are not counted as an ally, and I guess we'll see whether you can do a 2 versus 1 in 10.7 when we get the new captain skill changes. But I don't know, I mean, I guess you could actually want heavy AP shells as one example, gun feeder maybe as another, maybe, you know, you could actually go expert AA marksman. 25% priority sector is pretty good, and obviously one flak bubble is also great. 5 to 6 isn't a big change, but it's something. But I mean, this 50% goes to 75%, which means that you basically add 75% to your entire DPS, which gets some pretty high numbers. And especially against tier 6 CVs, that would be quite useful. But overall though, I don't know. You mostly just want to buff your firepower in whatever way you can get, I think. So, next up, I guess we'll check out the upgrades. I use concealment. Here, I've been using propulsion mod, but honestly, I think I should probably switch to damage control, because this ship does suffer from battleship fires. They last for 60 seconds. I really think they probably should be more like the Graf Spee, so 45 seconds, but this is what we have right now, so I think damage control is actually the better choice. Obviously here's aiming systems, then I use the Hydra upgrade. If I didn't have this, then damage control, and then Maynard's modification 1. On the tier 7 one, you have a scout plane, and I actually used the scout plane upgrade to make it last longer, but the ship doesn't have a scout plane anymore, so you can't boost your range. But I mean, I have 86k XP on the ship. I've played it a fair bit at this point, and it's kind of an acquired taste, I suppose. I do enjoy playing her, and I'd say the main reason is because of this, the armor scheme. Oh, actually, I guess one more thing. Maneuverability. 11-second rudder shift is long, but 34 knots and 730-meter turning circle are pretty good. Especially when you look at this. 9.8 kilometer surface detectability. For a ship that's this tanky, it's pretty amazing. So, let's go over the armor. Obviously 25mm bow, it's a cruiser after all. 25mm stern, but you can see this icebreaker armor, or I don't know what it's called. 40mm means that nothing will ever overmatch this, and it sits on the waterline, meaning that nobody's gonna citadel you. The side armor plate is also 40mm, so you're not even gonna... nothing is even gonna overmatch this. The deck is 30, so Yamato can overmatch this, and some other battleships can as well. Then there is the torp protection, which is 27. Not the greatest, but, well, again, it's still something. Especially because when you look slightly further. See, there's a main belt that's 200mm behind that. And then you have this, you see the turtleback here, right? This section, that's another 25mm. And then after the turtleback, you still have a citadel which sits basically on the waterline, and that's another 40mm. So this ship has excellent citadel protection. Seriously excellent citadel protection. I think you need to basically be flat broadside against something like a battleship to actually be citadeled in this thing. So maybe I should have really taken the risk against the Normandy. But, you know, you live, you learn. And overall, because of the tankiness of the ship, I find that she is... You can get into crazy situations with the tankiness, maneuverability, and detectability. And that leads to really cool situations. And I'm gonna reiterate this. Instead of having this meet the fuckers airstrike stuff, it would be much cooler if you just had torpedoes. Because you could just drive up to a battleship and go like, peace. And they're dead, because you have torpedoes instead of stupid planes. But I suppose that would probably be too OP for a cruiser. Still, it's not the most fun to play, because the guns don't feel fun. But the survivability lets you get away with crazy stuff. So be warned, your damage numbers are probably gonna be low. But you can survive some crazy stuff. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I would like to thank the patrons on Patreon. Thank you very much for your continued support, and I hope I'll see you guys next time.